Hey all, so this is our war against 4 Loki, the 5th war of the season, but I've realized as I am catching up on these that it had been long enough since the PBT war, I actually left off the boss kill because I forgot I took the boss. So that fight will be at the end of this video, keep an eye out for that. Anyway, I actually did not have any tier 1 fights, which has happened a few times this season. I just everyone else lined up really well to take tier 1, and so my first fight was the Powersnack Miniboss here, this Cosmic Ghost Rider. Now, CGR has been a fairly dangerous defender this season because of the unstoppable armor tactic. As soon as you hit him, he can gain an armor, go unstoppable, will shrug off any stun on him, and then can potentially hit you. Maybe he fully combos you, grabs the power gain, and then things can get ugly. And so often we end up sending like Magneto, maybe Sorcerer Supreme to try and get the slow up right away. But a few wars ago, fellow officer and SSx nerd pointed out, hey guys, you can just wait for the armor up to proc from the global. Because the way Cosmic Ghost Rider works is as soon as any armor up procs, that satisfies the judgment, and he won't gain his personal one because that box has already been checked. So I was fully prepared to go into this fight and lose our ramp up because you have to wait 10 seconds for the armor up and then potentially another 3 seconds for the unstoppable that can happen after it, giving you only a 2-second window to refresh the 15-second debuffs from Reed's pre-fights. If he didn't play nice in that window and had gone unstoppable, then I would have lost the ones we started with. But that would not have been a problem because Reed is Defiance. I can dance all I want. I will not gain buffs. I will not trigger Powersnack. I could have just built right back up to the special 2. Really, the only danger in this entire fight is getting hit. So as long as I stay on top of that, and notice I'm not even bothering to punish his special 1s, because I'm pretty confident in it, but I don't want to be wrong and get parried. Because, again, the main danger here is getting hit. I'm not worried about tempo, I'm reversing his willpower, he has no crit resistance. The only thing I have to do here is stay alive. But we're now fully ramped. And so on top of staying alive, this fight is also going extremely well. Looks like we're going to have it down well within the 2-minute mark. He does go unstoppable here. We parry, it doesn't stun him. That's fine. We wait it out, throw the special 1. That's about as well as that fight can possibly go. We got maximum ramp. We got both of the debuffs from the special 1. We got the full passive. So we came out of that with 3 more charges than we went in, only losing 3% health. Very happy with how that went. So this screenshot right here is to show you that this war was the very first one during which I had Nimrod at Sig 200. Because I finished Act 7 and got all of those Sig stones and promptly put some of them into Nimrod. Now, I had decided not to take him to rank 4. You see the little arrow lit up. But I hadn't committed to Tigra, who was my actual choice with the catalysts, just yet. I mentioned in my last video that how quickly he took down a rank 4 Kitty Pryde was part of the decision not to rank him, but I could have changed my mind if this fight had gone poorly. So let's go over the challenge here real quick. Apocalypse has a ton of health. This is a rank 4. His specials can hit very hard, and on this node, every time you block him, he will place a disorient on you unless it's a well-timed block, in which case he still might, there's just only a 50% chance. So often people try to bypass that by using Ghost or Corvus. 4 Loki knows what they're doing, so both of those options were banned. So this was basically what we were left with. Now, I've talked before about how Nimrod has pseudo-immunity to disorient when fighting mutants, because his high armor rating allows him to block better, as long as the opponent isn't critting through block, and his immunity to ability accuracy reduction means he doesn't have to worry about parries failing. But here's the problem. You can tell that I was nervous for this fight because I used a regen boost on a heal blocked node. Let's pretend that didn't happen. But here's the problem. Because there's window of opportunity on this fight, there are a lot of times when I just cannot parry at all. So we have to look for ways around that. One of those is this lined up really well where I was able to get a few parries during the window of opportunity. I also go for the full dex on the special 2 to just avoid the extra disorients. I understand that most people consider that too risky for war, and I often agree, but I do think it was worth it this time. So we go for another parry, get a couple armor ups, and I was trying to get extra parries and push to, throwing my special 2 with at least 6. But I make a mistake here and accidentally move to my special 3 because I underestimated the energize, which had just gotten significantly stronger because I fed 60 stones into my Nimrod. I did duel for this fight, but that's something that I can't properly duel for because my 5-star Nimrod, which I used for that, is only unduped, like Sig 0. So I have no bonus to the energize, and that just caught me off guard. It won't again, but that made this fight significantly harder than it needs to be because it would probably be over right now if I had lined that up perfectly. And now I have to build back up to another special 2, which means I am going to have to deal with a special 1 from him, which ideally would not have happened at all. But notice, right there we can parry the first hit of it, which allows us to gain more armor ups that we otherwise would not have been able to gain because of all of the uptime on that stun shield stopping us from just flat out parrying. But you can always parry specials because they don't trigger stun. So that was a way to get a little bit of extra protection, a little bit of extra attack rating for the next special 2, and that fight went absurdly well. That was a rank 3 Nimrod punching up against a rank 4 Apocalypse on a great placement, and I played the node poorly. I messed up. He still only lost 25% health, and we don't even have to mention how fast the fight was. We were nowhere close to a timeout. Given that, I don't think I need to rank 4 my Nimrod yet. I will, because he's awesome, but he doesn't need to be in my first 3. So moving on to this Guardian on Spite, I am once again taking Path 7 with Killmonger, because often the champions that are put here that mess with more traditional power control options do so by having evade or auto block. And so I just don't have to worry about that with Killmonger. Defiance means that he's immune to Spite, and then his True Strike lets me bypass everything else. Now, a high Sig Guardian would have significant bleed resistance, so you wouldn't see the heavy extra damage we're getting from that, but as I've shown on other nodes, that just doesn't matter. The fact that Killmonger's True Strike completely ignores his large armor up means that I'm still going to be doing great damage throughout this whole fight, whether I crit or not, whether I inflict bleeds or not. It's just going to be reliable. It's not going to be flashy, but it's going to cut through him plenty quickly. And there we go. Rank 3 auto blocker down in just over a minute. Literally a minute and 1 second. So then we move on to this Spider Ham on the second node. This is also a good placement, but one that does not counter Killmonger. He's one of the best possible counters for Spider Ham in general, and placing anyone on Spite that he can take makes this that much easier. Now, even given all that, I think this is a great place to place spam, because even if you have a Killmonger, there's still a lot of things that can go wrong here because of aspect of evolution. It's more difficult to close this fight out quickly because every time he gains a bar of power, his crit resistance goes up, so we're going to be doing less damage both with bleeds and with basics. His combat power rate goes up, which means we're going to need to bait out more special ones, which increases the odds of him backing us up, and increases the odds of him just refusing to throw anything until he gets a special 2. Anyone who's fought spam a lot knows that feeling. It is not a good time. It also significantly increases his attack. So if I do get backed up and I do something wrong, it's really going to hurt, and it's probably just going to end me. And because you don't really want to be messing with allowing Spider-Ham to gain spider nonsense, you want to throw your special ones as soon as you get them, which means I'm not going to do what I normally do and go for the extra safety of a special 2 and its indestructible charges. So this fight is still going very well, but he's being fairly generous with the special ones, in part because we're also knocking him down a lot. We're making good use of the counterpunch. But a huge thing that I'm doing in this fight that I really want to stress for anybody else taking this is we are really trying to back him up where we can. We're being very mindful of the fact that True Strike is now gone. We don't want to hit into his block if he's readied that manual evade. That's one way that this can go horribly very quickly. But as long as he has it up and he's not at 2 bars yet, you can hit into his block because you really want to maintain spacing. I wasn't doing it there because I didn't feel like I needed to yet. I had the counterpunch. But just notice how much of this fight is taking place in his corner and not mine. That is a big part of why it feels so safe. And that's what you want to emulate if you end up taking it yourself. So then moving on to this Mojo, this is yet another fight that I have taken multiple times with Reed without the benefit of Defiance. He's just a good counter to it in general by controlling the rest of it. But now we also have Defiance. And so even if I get unlucky with prompts and Mojo goes to 5, and I haven't killed him by then, so I actually take the degen. Because in the past, even like one failed prompt for him has meant the fight's over before that becomes an issue. Now, even if I get unlucky, I just won't degen. Because I won't gain the hater buff. So the only way for this to go poorly for Reed is to flat out eat a special 2 or a special 3. Because that will apply the degen without us needing to gain buffs. And this is kinetic transference, so if we're not careful, if we block too much of those special 1s, then we could shoot him up to a special 2 or a special 3, and that would be a problem. But that's not going to happen, because we're blunting all of that with our Petrifies. Now we have 2 up, we also have 2 suppressions. We have almost fully turned off kinetic transference here. It's down to only 20% of what it would be. So right here you're going to see the benefits of running the Petrify Mastery at max because it allows us to throw that heavy. He has 2 suppressions up, and Petrify reduces combat power by another 30%, so we were able to not push him to his special 2. Notice how he got earlier in this fight as high as 4 completed prompts. We did fail one, but having that safety net of Defiance, of knowing that he can complete another, he can go to 5 and we'll be fine, is really nice for this. Still, very quick, very safe fight with or without Defiance, nothing much to worry about. So that was the War with 4 Loki. We ended up winning that one. I think both of us tried to bait the other into bad matchups because we know our relative strengths and weaknesses very well. There's a lot of mutual friends in both alliances. We were more successful this time, or just had fewer weird deaths. We've had so many of those this season. So we were able to win this one. But honestly, I think that War should probably change the matchmaking system so that you just don't know who you're facing. Because it's weird that the wars where you are most able to take personal shots at the other team, where you are most able to tailor fights in an effort to just ruin somebody's day, really, are when you're facing the people you care about the most. It's just not... It's not a dynamic I enjoy, and I've said before, it's also kind of a almost classist thing within the war community, because Tier 1 all knows who they're facing, every war. But then the further down you go, it's actually a mystery because people don't necessarily know about the calculator or coordinate, figure out numbers, any of that. So I really just think that because we have a way around that, it should either be public for everyone, or what I would prefer, now that bans are a thing, we just don't know it all. Anyway, on to the Tigra fight. If you remember what I said about the PBT war, it was tied when I took this, I believe. So, very, very high pressure boss fight. Now, Tigra is a very good counter for Black Panther Civil War because she can completely stop his armors as long as she has Neutralize up. But there is a complication. If he doesn't play into her moveset, and you do not have Neutralize up, and the armor from the global procs at a bad time, and then you try to throw a heavy, a duped Black Panther will go unstoppable even if he cannot gain new armors. That's just how the signature ability works. And so that's kind of scary. That's why you'll notice me in several places here actually throwing combos instead of heavies, because I know I need to get the Neutralize up before the armor comes back. And just landing a hit that much sooner matters. So yeah, right there, yet another armor up, which means that I have to wait for it to go away. He's not really throwing that many heavies. It just feels like he's really pounding into my block here. And then he waits out the Neutralize, gets the armor from the global, and I get, I don't know, frustrated, distracted, one of the two, but I make a mistake and throw a heavy into him even though he has an armor up, despite the fact that I know what that does. I thought I got away with it until the very last hit of the heavy. He remembers that he's duped and goes unstoppable even though he have Neutralize up. And I take some real damage from that. Thankfully, that's why we use the Indestructible boosts over the power back boosts that she does not need. We're still in this. Part of that heavy just flat out whiffed. Love when that happens on older champions. And yet again, he dances until Neutralize just comes off at exactly the perfect moment. I was so frustrated with the AI in this fight. But luckily, Tigra is still that good. And this is the fight that convinced me, okay, Nimrod doesn't need rank 4. And maybe in better hands, Tigra wouldn't either, but I know my limits as a player. And in my hands, I think Tigra does need rank 4. So that's why she ended up getting the nod over Nimrod. And I'm really happy to have her for the rest of this season and just going forward. She is absolutely one of my favorite champions, and she very much deserves the rank. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. My bad on completely forgetting that I took the boss in the previous war. I'm almost caught up on videos, so that shouldn't happen again. But until next time, thanks so much for watching, and take care.